Glad to have you join us again. And like I said before, we went for that short break. We're looking at several giant strides of Prince Dr. Abeokuta-led government in Ogun State. Talking about the housing sector, this government has been able to touch, beautifully and differently. I'm talking about road infrastructure, name it, from Abeokuta Airport and to what we are celebrating recently, that is inland DRYPORT, where we have the privilege to, host the Minister for Blue Economy in the state. And of course, these are one of the major achievements of current government led by President Abeokuta. Today we shall be looking at the benefit, economic benefit of inland DRYPORT and in Ogun State, and so many other things that surround the choice of Ogun State, the location, and what the people stands to gain. And the government has been able to do so much more in this last 5 years. And when you consider a ministry starting with this responsibility, the Ministry of Transportation is a new baby of this administration too. And the commissioner there is been doing wonderfully well. We want to believe that that ministry is one ministry that is targeted to champion the achievement of His Excellency Prince Dr. Abeokuta since inception of office. He has today joined me as I welcome in the studio the Honorable Commissioner for Transportation in Ogun State, Honorable GBENGA DAIRO.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, Engineer GBENGA DAIRO, because you are an engineer. Yeah. Good to have you join us today. Good to have you join us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here with you and with your viewers.
You have a lot to bite in the cherry of this administration's development. Your ministry is like at the center, yes, when we talk about the infrastructure. We are not looking at the road infrastructure. We are looking at all the development infrastructure that this government is looking at. And a lot of this is seated on the table in your office. How do you feel like 2 years when the administration came on board was when your ministry wasn't, okay, the first year of the administration, your ministry, birth in the state, and since then you've been having one achievement to the other to talk about. How does it feel like to be the commissioner in that ministry first? Let me start.
It's been a honor and a privilege to serve the state under the leadership of His Excellency, the Governor of our dear state, Prince Dr. Abeokuta, of course, as a professional in the transportation sector, for all I give to him for granting me this opportunity to assist him to start the ministry, to pioneer the ministry, and to help him to deliver his vision for the transportation sector in Ogun State. It's a privilege and an honor, and it's one that I do not take for granted at all. And I'm also happy to also join not only myself but my colleagues, the staff, the men and women of the Ministry of Transportation, in acknowledging His Excellency for establishing the ministry and for giving us a platform for us to demonstrate what we can do in the transport sector here in Ogun State.
When you look at it from since inception, from the mass transit bus where you launch and you had a lot of people in the state, then to the Abeokuta Airport, which is an ongoing, infrastructure, to now the inland DRYPORT, and it's been one achievement or the other. Yes, let's now talk about your new baby. You're talking about the transportation, the bus is there, is taken care of. The Abeokuta is also another transportation, is also ongoing. Then look at this inland DRYPORT. It's another big achievement where a groundbreaking was done recently. We're also going to look at the video later in the course of the program and look at the groundbreaking ceremony. But what exactly is the benefit of this inland DRYPORT? Because a lot of people, when you ask them as a layman, they do not understand what exactly is the benefit. Then why, the location? Let's look at it from there first.
Thank you. I think we have to go back down memory lane and to try and recall the vision of His Excellency Prince Dr. Abeokuta when he took office back in 2019. We had a vision, of course, to continue the industrialization of our state, to improve the economic prosperity of the citizens of Ogun State. And ever since 2019 up until now, I think Ogun State has now become the industrial capital hub of Nigeria. Industrialization is growing apace. If you look at the Abeokuta Energy Corridor, the corridor between Lagos and Shagamu, Taoria, Agbara, several areas of industry are springing up and down the length and breadth of Ogun State. And that was in fact one of the reasons why he decided that he was going to establish the Ministry of Transportation, recognizing the critical role that transportation plays in socio-economic development. And so we got to task as quickly as possible back in 2021 and put together a strategic transportation master plan, a multimodal transportation master plan for Ogun State. And that plan really was to address the needs of not only people who live around within Ogun State, but also the movement of goods and cargo in our state. That plan identified the critical strategic infrastructure that is required to support industrial activity and growth in Ogun State. And DRYPORT is one of them. The Abeokuta Airport is one of them. The Olokola's deep sea port project is another. And of course, the highway network that the government has been assiduously working on for the past 4 or 5 years is also another critical component. So the DRYPORT is basically to serve industry. Our industry in Ogun State and perhaps in Nigeria as a whole relies heavily on raw materials from outside the country. And also the growing export industry in Ogun State, particularly in the agricultural sector, also is looking into easing the logistics and transportation elements around export activity. So therefore, we can't run away from the idea of ports. The closest ports to us at the moment is Apapa Port in Lagos and Tinkan Island ports. Both ports are judged as congested, which is why other ports, in fact, are springing up along the southern coast of Nigeria. But to make things easier for industrial concerns in Ogun State, the DRYPORT will serve as an opportunity for goods to come in, or raw materials in particular, to come in through the ports in Apapa, but simply be transloaded or transshipped onto railway, then deposited to Inland Airport site at Papala and Toitori area of Ogun State, which is in fact sited adjacent the recently developed Lagos set up the railway by the federal government. So access by railway is there. And it's also pretty close to the strategic road network. You can access the DRYPORT from the Abeokuta highway, which rehabilitation has just started. The Ila Road to Papalanto to interchange East-West Road connects that site to the Benin-Shagamu Expressway as well as the Shagamu-Lagos expressways as well. So the transport connection, the accessibility of the site was critical in identifying that area in the local government area between Papalanto and Itobi as a very, very optimal site and location for the DRYPORT. So essentially, we are saying that the industry will benefit from the port location where it is, in terms of importation of goods and raw materials, and also in terms of export of processed goods in Ogun State. Pretty close to that area is the Kajura Free Trade Zone, which we hope very soon will also begin to develop industrialization. Around the inland DRYPORT is also a DRYPORT city, also to contain various land use developments, commercial activities, logistics and warehouses. All of those things are going to benefit from the presence of that DRYPORT in that neighborhood.
This project it looks and it's more like a long, project that will serve future purpose, like the Honorable Minister said to His Excellency in his speech that, the governor is actually investing in the future. And when you look at all that you have analyzed here today, you consider the fact that, one, the accessibility, the access to that location, it's a dimensional. You can get there through a road network and the rail, network. But you look at this and the possibility of less than 3 years for His Excellency to leave office, the possibility of achieving it, a lot of projects are on his hands, and a big project for that matter. So you now want to measure it and say that, will this be able to meet up with the time? Then what exactly is the time frame for the actualization of this project?
Well, first and foremost, the President Abeokuta-led government is not a short-termist government. The agenda of the governor and the government, therefore, is one that looks beyond the political cycle, if I may use that phrase. All of us who are in government, including the governor, we are all citizens of Ogun State, and is very interested in the future of Ogun State, not just even the present circumstances in Ogun State. So the planning is not for the immediate gratification of satisfying the political cycle, but look at the future of Ogun State for all indigenes and citizens of our state, for all those who visit our state, for all those who want to establish businesses in our state. So we're looking in the medium and in the long term. And I think at the beginning of this conversation, I mentioned the fact that we put together a strategic multimodal transportation plan for Ogun State. And it's a 25-year plan. It's not one that looks at the next 2 or 3 years or the next 4 or 5 years. It looks way into the future and identifies strategic infrastructure. And so this infrastructure that is going to be there for years. I mean, look back to the Apapa Tinkan ports. And how long they've been there, still serving the interest of Nigeria. Similarly, airports like Murtala Mohammed Airport have been there for years, and those continue to be there serving the interest. Now, this investment in the inland dry port is a similar characteristics in that it will, of course, cope and serve the present needs of industry, but we're looking beyond the current needs. There's determination to expand economic and industrial activity now, so beyond what we are seeing today. There's an internal determination to expand the agri sector in particular, production, processing, aspects of agriculture, the agri-business and value chain. And all these things are going to begin to come up in the next few years, even beyond the life of our administration. Look at the deep sea port I spoke about, Abeokuta. Again, that's another strategic bit of infrastructure, not necessarily to serve the needs of current demand, but to look at the future. And so these projects are not designed essentially to satisfy a particular timetable. Having said all that, the first phase of the inland dry port will certainly begin operation before the end of the lifetime of our administration. So as is always with big infrastructure projects, you try and design them to implement them in stages or in phases, so that activity can start, and then investors can begin to see the value of the investments in these activities and be motivated, in fact, to do a bit more. The dry port, I think, as I have alluded to, is also an anchor project that will also invite or attract other activities in the neighborhood. I spoke about the dry port city, the free trade zone in Kajola. So all of these things are relying on the immediate or early takeoff of the dry port. And the first phases, I can assure you, will begin operating before the end of the lifetime of the President Abeokuta administration.
Okay, if I may pick something from all that you have said, it is looking like it's not certain that this project would be, achieved before the end of the
That's not what I said.
Okay.
That's
I'm driving on the point here. So then let now say that even if this administration is unable to, finish it at the end of before the end of the tenure, because you have said that we are going to have, say, a first phase of it done before the end, and it's designed in such a way that will accommodate a further future development. Now there is every possibility that government after government, and we have experienced this in Nigeria, that continuity, no government comes on board and take over the project of the past administration. Let's say thanks to the administration of President Abeokuta, was taking up so many projects of last administration and continued in such a way. But how do you feel when we look at first phase will be done, and it gives room for developments going on after this administration? If it does not get to, somebody is the owner of this dream, somebody conceived this idea of bringing it down, and after the office is looking at the fact that the continuity is not there to leverage on the development on the ground by any government that succeeds is administration.
Well, first, I need to correct that impression we have that this project is not going to take off before the end of the administration. Let us be clear. In fact, analogy I will use is maybe Abuja. You were too young to understand how Abuja grew. Some of us were around in the 70s and 80s when the idea of Abuja was conceptualized, and then at some point, and then development started. By the mid-90s, the federal government had moved its operations from Lagos to Abuja. Even then, it was just a skeletal situation at that time, and then over time, the city has grown to what we now know Abuja to be. The same thing is going to happen with the DRYPORT city, the free trade zone area. There's going to be, the DRYPORT is an anchor project, okay, which, as I said, and I hasten to reiterate yet again, we're going to start the early phases of that project, operating that project within the lifetime of this administration. And the reasons for that are simple. One is to ensure that the investors begin to realize some of the benefits of the investment. It serves as an anchor to attract various other activities into the DRYPORT city itself, also the casual free trade zone which I referenced, and similar to the special agricultural processing zone around the airport. The Abeokuta airport, the Gateway International Airport, is the anchor project for that site. And as soon as activity starts around the airport, of course that started already, and then as soon as we ramp it up, then we begin to see other bits of investment and activity arising around there. And so if you come back to either the Copaland territory axis or the Peri-Lisho axis in another 10, 25 years, you'll be astounded at what you're going to find there. Just as people are astounded. Those who saw Abuja back in the mid-90s, and now see what Abuja is like today. Now a continuity. I started by saying that the posture of the governor is one of an Ogun State citizen. Okay, is one that and his mantra has always been to ensure that he serves every nook and corner of Ogun State. Everywhere. He is a governor of Ogun State, not a governor of a particular region. And I believe he has demonstrated that in what he has done in all the senatorial districts across our state. He's a visionary leader, and he's looking at projects, he's looking at interventions that speak to the entirety of Ogun State rather than parochial projects, if I may use that particular phrase. So he's one that has endeavored to carry along all shades of interest in Ogun State in all the projects he has been doing. Some of the ones that he met when he got into office, he has endeavored to continue them, to complete them, establishing that principle of continuity as you referred to. And as I said, in all the projects that will be taken forward, all the shades, interest, dimensions within our state are all carried along with the process, so that everybody understands that this project is not a Abeokuta project per se, it's an Ogun State project, and in fact the ones he met also, they're not projects of people's administrations, but they're Ogun State the state projects which have benefited from the blood, tears, and sweat of the citizens of Ogun State. So that's his posture.
Yes.
And so I believe that these strategic projects, they are strategic projects. They're not one of little tiny, audacious projects. They're not good building projects. You might consider the priority when you do a road construction project. But when you look at dry ports, airport projects, seaport projects, things of this magnitude and size, they are, in fact, they are national projects. They're not even just the state projects. They are national projects. So going forward in future, I envision a situation whereby all the leaders, the movers and shakers in our state will ensure that the continuity that you refer to is there, and even beyond the boundaries of the state. Because of the national importance of these projects, the projects will also be there to assure that continuity.
Thank you, Honorable Commissioner. Yes, you said where you want to react to my question that maybe in the 80s I was too young to understand what happened in the Abuja. Yes, it's true. Yes, my generation is kind of too, we're always in a hurry we're always futuristic. We want to see the result of things quickly. I was young then though, but then, in my fourth decade of existence, I would also want to see that. That's what prompted the question, really. But thank you for reminding me that, well, development is a continuum, so we're going to see better, in the future. Yes, the Honorable Minister, during the groundbreaking, made mention of the fact that, these will also create jobs, and, thousands of people would be employed. You want to, explain or expatiate more the operationality of this inland dry port and the involvement, how will it benefit people directly when it comes to creating jobs? How is this going to work out?
Yes, I will begin this conversation. We did ask for economic benefits. Forgive me for not mentioning the fact that it's a job-creating project, one that will attract a lot of labor, not just manual labor, but strategic jobs, important jobs, engineers, logistics experts, customs activities. A variety of activities will be found at that location. Those are the dry port itself. But as I said, it's an anchor project for a wider development in that neighborhood. But essentially, the way the system will work is that ships will come from overseas. Usually, when we get to Abeokuta port, there's a port side and there's a land side. So on the port side, the activities that take place there. For example, the customs have to obviously examine where the goods are there, the freight forwarders and so on must be to receive those goods. They must be processed. The goods and the containers must be processed before they are then transferred into the land side area of the port, where those who are the importers and the exporters can actually then consummate their transaction in terms of collecting the containers and transporting to wherever it is they want to transport them to. In this instance, when the container and the goods arrive at the port, for example, Tinkan port, there will be no customs activity there. All those activities will now take place at the inland dry port. So the goods are simply transshipped from a ship onto either a railway system that has the beds and the configuration to accept a container, or even by rail if necessary, and then taken to the inland dry port. At the inland dry port, the customs, of course, will perform their duties. The NDLEAs always will conduct their activities. All the government agencies, federal government agencies that are involved in port activities, because the strategic area would the military, others are going to ensure that these containers are not containing things that will be injurious to the national sovereignty. We will conduct the activities there. And then also, within the port will be warehouses. There will be a freight station there, clearly, where the trains itself will berth, and from where the containers will be offloaded and then assessed by the various authorities. Then, of course, there will be warehouses even within the perimeter of the dry port, where these goods will be located. There will be trailer parks within the area as well. Of course, there will be other offices to deal with the administrative issues and concerns surrounding the activities at the particular port. So these are some of the activities you will find in the port itself. Okay. But clearly, we need to service all those who work in terms of, even is providing things like restaurant activity for them to be able to serve their food needs. Yeah. There will be things about stationery, repair, maintenance activities all along that particular area. And beyond the port itself, dealing with the trailer park which I spoke about, which of course will have things like gas stations, depots, maintenance activities, also services like motels and things to serve the needs and requirements of those who are working in the area of transportation, logistics and movements. Okay. So a variety of jobs will spring up. And the minister said it, the governor said it, we're looking to up to 25,000 jobs. Jobs that will be created
inland seaport alone. But from your conversation here, you said, you've mentioned formal job creation, you've talked about the custom, the immigration, the federal government agencies. The Prince Abeokuta administration is, particular about, he's been prioritizing the need to engage the people, who are from the informal sector, the cheap labor, they are part of some of these housing constructions. He said it one time that he has been able to engage people from, the community where this housing units are being built. And in this one, are we going to have, do we think we're looking at having, this cheap labor also, where the people of this community will be the direct beneficiary of the job that this will be creating at the end of the day?
Yes. One point which I haven't mentioned thus far, which is relevant or related to what we're discussing now, is the fact that this project is a PPP project. It's a public-private partnership project in line with the policy of the government. And already we are in discussions and negotiations with our private sector partners. And our partners are those who have international experience of doing this kind of development all across, especially in Africa. We've been to some of the operations in the parts of Africa, and we understand and we're delighted that they have the capacity and the capability and wherewithal to deliver this project in the time that we want them to do it. But you are right, critical to the activities is this issue of local content, if I can use that phrase. And it's one of the principles that feature extensively in our negotiations with the partners, that we're going to have to use this activity here is going to create a lot of jobs. So in the development, in the process of building towards the commissioning phase, we're heavily reliant on local labor that has the required and prerequisite skills to serve the interests of the investors and developers there. But beyond that, we can see beyond the development of the airport. Once operation starts, there will be new skills that are required. And they, as an operator, because they're already developing, they will develop, they will operate, they will manage. They also have a requirement, therefore, to develop amongst the locality, citizens of the state, and those, of course, who also are from the local area, to develop and to positively and intentionally ensure that they acquire the right skills to be able to take advantage of this investment in the area. And it's something that's happening with Abeokuta Airport in the Port-Elisha area. So the same principles that we are using there to ensure that those from that neighborhood and also, in fact, the generality of the state are participating not only in development, in the labor of development, construction activity, but also eventually in the operations of this important strategic infrastructure in our states.
So definitely the jobs that this is going to be creating would cut across the nooks and crannies, especially because I won't lie to you, if I'm from that community and I'm seeing a beautiful project as big as that in my community, I should be the #1 to benefit from it. So I'm sure with what you've said, the people now watching will be assured of opportunity coming their way through this project. Yes, we want to digress a bit from this inland dry port, and we're looking at one of these, projects under your watch, which is the Abeokuta Airport, and we won't be looking at the updates about that. Then again, so many things we are going to talk about here as regards your ministry, not just this topic alone. You mentioned that when you came aboard, there was a multimodal transportation master plan, which has to do with, the transportation system of the state in a whole. Yes, we'll quickly go for this short break, and we'll continue after the break, and we would also want our people to be part of this conversation through phone in, so we'll put the phone number on the screen for them to also make their contribution. So after this short break, the program continues, and the Honorable Commissioner would also be responding to questions relating to other activities under his watch. Join us after this time out.
Don't you people sell imported materials
You're
here?
welcome,
As beautiful as the shop is.
Auntie, buying foreign goods does not help our economy. Neither does it boost local production. And the good thing is Nigerian-made products are high quality. Really? And to make Nigeria great again, that is why I only sell made in Nigeria products. Because change begins with me.
I'm convinced.
Change begins with me too! Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Yes, glad to have you back joining us in the studio of Roundtable on OGTV, the People's Telly, and we'll be looking at economic benefit of inland dry port in Ogun State, one of the major, giant strides of Prince Dapo Abiodun since inception of office in 2019. The governor, His Excellency Prince Dapo Abiodun, made mention during his inaugural speech that he's going to leave Ogun State better than he met it. And so far, the governor has been walking the talk, and he's been, coming up with development after development. And today we're looking at a beautiful one again, the new baby of the government, which is the inland dry port that was recently, the groundbreaking ceremony was done here in Ogun State. And I've been having with me in the studio the Honorable Commissioner in charge of that ministry, the Ministry of Transportation. A lot has been done by that ministry in a short period of, the ministry's existence. And we've been talking about, the multimodal transportation master plan, where the bus mass transit was launched. We're looking at e-bike and the Abeokuta Airport, which is a big project that is ongoing. Yes, before we went for that short break, I was asking the Honorable Commissioner about the updates, because we want to, look at everything and anything that your ministry has ever laid hand on since inception. And we're looking at this big project that everybody is looking forward to, the actualization and the completion of the project, which is Abeokuta Airport. You want to give us updates, and our viewers at home can also be part of this conversation. The phone number is there in your screen. What do you think the Honorable Commissioner should speak to? You know of these projects coming from this ministry. What is it that you want them to talk about, and what feedback you want the Commissioner to hear from you? You can put a call through, and we'll be here to answer your questions. Yes, Honorable Commissioner, we are looking at the Abeokuta Airport. Can you just briefly tell us the update of Abeokuta Airport now?
All right. First of all, the description of the airport that we have adopted these days is the Gateway International Airport. So maybe you want to adopt that way of reference National Airport.
Yes.
Because the airport is designed to cater not only for cargo, but both passenger and cargo activities and operations. There are a number of elements that we have to look at when we're developing a project of this kind. There's the infrastructure side, there's the regulatory side, and then there's the services side. On the infrastructure side, which is the hard things you can touch, okay? Runways, buildings, and so on. It's pretty much completed. I would say we are perhaps 98% done on the infrastructure side. What is left maybe is for us to now acquire some of the equipment that we have acquired, that we have procured from overseas to arrive, and for them to fit them out into the control tower, the runways itself with the lighting systems that are required there. So that's where we are on infrastructure and equipment. The hard tangible things, 98-99% complete. The phase we're at now is satisfying the regulatory requirements. An airport is an international project because it's not only just serving Ogun State, not only serving Nigeria, it's a point on the global map. And therefore, not only the local, domestic regulators have an interest in the airport, but the international community also have a great interest. So the phase we've been working on most recently, is satisfying the regulatory requirements, both Nigerian regulatory requirements and international regulatory requirements, for us to be able to operate commercial passenger services. In the meantime, we have satisfied regulatory requirements to operate visual operations at the airport. And I'm sure you are familiar with the fact that already activities taking place at the airport, you know, in terms of chartered flights and so on. So those are ongoing, but we are at the cusp of achieving that regulatory approval. In fact, only this weekend, a team from NCA, the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, were at the airport to conduct a second assessment of the airport. And we believe that, I'm sure by this week, we will achieve that certification. That's one step towards the eventual certification, ultimate certification of this airport for commercial operations. So on the services side, we are again negotiating with potential airline operators who are going to operate from that airport. Because and we have to work together with them. We're working together with them to ensure that the infrastructure and the system we are putting in place will support the activities of airlines, both local and international airlines. So that's another aspect of the activities that have been going on. And we hope that very soon we'll sign on the dotted line, and then flights will be able to take place from our airport here in Ogun State, and the Gateway International Airport to various parts of Nigeria and even beyond.
Proud to hear this, and I'm also, proud of the administration of President Abeokuta, even for anything but this giant strike. It's a big one, and it's a very good project that is going to be a talk of the town when it's finally completed. Yes, to this question, Honorable Commissioner, there were feelers from the people, like you said, rightly said. You corrected me when I said Abeokuta Airport. You said it is now Gateway International Airport. So from my feelers, I was able to gather that it is no more an Abeokuta Airport, but now a full-fledged airport that we are going to see in Ogun State, where we are going to have not just cargo but commercial flights will be operating from that place
Airport.
very soon, from that airport very soon. Yes, I want to ask Honorable Commissioner, why the change? You were conceived as an agro-cargo, and
there's no change. I mean, the business model for the airport is based on cargo activities. Don't let's make any mistake about that. The success of the airport, the financial, commercial success of the airport will be founded on the cargo business or aspects of that airport. Mainly because it's conceptualized, as I said earlier in our earlier conversation, as an anchor project for the special agricultural processing zone in which it is situated. I don't know whether our viewers are familiar with that fact, that in that area is something called a special agricultural processing zone. There are about 8 of those zones all across Nigeria, with which Nigerian government has been working with the Ogun State government and the African Development Bank to develop special agricultural processing zones across the country to take advantage of the agricultural potentials in terms of production of cash crops, food crops, and their processing, especially for local consumption and international export activity. So this airport is central to that. Already we have engaged, or we are partnering in line with this government's PPP policy with a private team who are going to develop and attract investment into that zone. And we're achieving 1 or 2 successes in that area at the moment. And so it's more or less a free trade zone, an economic zone. And the idea is for materials to come in, raw materials to come in, processes to take place in that area, and then for them to be exported or transported to various parts of Nigeria. And the facility at the airport, the cargo aspect of the airport, will serve that particular need. That is the basis of the business case and the business model. But in addition to that is the need for passenger activities and movements. Some of our people, of course, especially the industry that is developing in that area, have to transact business outside Ogun State, in Abuja most especially, and indeed internationally as well. So that service, I think, is an add-on service, an important one, a critical one, to the cargo activities there at the airport. So that is why the moniker has changed a bit now towards the Gateway International Airport, in recognition of the fact that it will cater for both passenger and cargo activities. We haven't lost the cargo interest at all. Activities going on in there, and within a short order. In fact, we have a warehouse for cargo there already, and there will be various interest from various developers, all worldwide, who are interested in developing cargo-specific developments in the SAPZ.
So we're going to be having two in one at the end of the day. We'll be having the commercial activities taking place there, and of course the agro-cargo airport will also be serving its purposes. Thank you, Honorable Commissioner. I'm so proud to hear this. Yes, quickly before, because our time is fast spent, before we go in our other lot, because your ministry is a ministry that has done a lot. So expectedly, the questions here are so many that, well, let me take this one here coming from, somebody who sent a message in saying that I should ask the Honorable Commissioner that the e-bike, that's the electronic motorbike that was recently launched, that are we also looking at, the second phase of its, the launch, and when is it likely going to be? Then the people, a lot of people see the situation, what has happened after this petroleum issue, the hike in price of petroleum, and people just buy into the idea of the electronic bike, which is a very good and positive initiative to control the situation, to cushion the effects of petroleum in the state. So this person said I should ask you, Honorable Commissioner, that when is the second phase or the third phase coming up? Then how are you going to ensure that a lot of people, more people, benefit from this electronic motorbike that you just launched?
Well, I'm not quite sure the perspective at which the listener or the viewer rather is asking the question, because the e-bike serves several purposes. People use it for commercial transport operations. People use it for their private use, and some people use it for deliveries and so on. The one that we launched a few months ago was basically aimed at the motorcycle taxi sector, popularly known as Okada operators. And basically it's an initiative of the government and the governor to try and attack and address the issue of a rising cost of transportation, as well as, of course, the adverse environmental impact of petrol-fueled engines in our communities. So that scheme was basically focused on the Okada operators, and the idea was that so that we can begin to operate services that the transport fares are affordable, not as exorbitant, and therefore protect people from the challenges around subsidy removal policy, which we have seen that prices have gone up since that policy was introduced. So that was the dimension of that. Now, for private, if it's a private buyer of a bicycle, the suppliers are there. What we did was to facilitate or to engage suppliers that we knew were credible, that we knew were going to be consistent in terms of their long-term view of operating and working in Nigeria, and therefore can sustain, maintain the vehicles and the machinery they're bringing into our space. So we've engaged those people, we brought them in, and anybody who wants to buy a bike, even I myself, I bought one from them to be used for personal use. So anybody who wants to use it for personal use, you can engage the supplier and take advantage of the fact that the government has already satisfied them as a credible team that are here to stay, that not only will supply with the bikes, they have the maintenance machinery to support the longevity of the use of those machines here in our state. Having said all that, what we launched back in, I think, when was it again? A few weeks or months ago.
Months ago, yes.
Was no more than about 200 something bikes across, just to serve or to demonstrate the efficacy of this policy in the Abeokuta area. The demand for it is grown all across the state. People in Jagam are asking for it, people in Djibouti are asking for it, people in Ota are asking for it. So the idea now is to expand the involvement in the commercial motorcycle business area and bringing almost 1,000 further bikes into that space. Now that people are caught into it, they've seen the advantage, they've seen the value, they've seen that the cost of energy in comparison to fuel, to petrol fuel, is quite advantageous. And also that is being reflected in the transportation fare that passengers are experiencing when they use an e-bike.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable Commissioner. I'm sure that the person who sent this message, our viewer, now understands what you are talking about. It comes, it's good really when people, see the government's project and given feedbacks, they want to talk about it, they want to also be part of the development, they want to benefit, yes, let me put it that way. So it's a good one, but of course I would also say that if it's possible to make it available to our people, I would also love to have one. Maybe by then I'll learn how to ride a motorbike. Yes, thank you, Honorable Commissioner, for being part of the program today. It's been a worthwhile one, and it's a very big and broad conversation here. And I believe that as time goes on, before the life cycle of this administration ends, a lot will still come from your office that will benefit the entire people of Ogun State. Inshallah. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Yes, the program is Roundtable, and that's just the length of the show today, talking about the development of Prince Dapo Abiodun's administration in the area of transportation. And we've looked at so many, Honorable Commissioners been able to give answer to so many questions asked today. Join us again next week. My name is Mureni Keji Shobaleju. Then we shall be discussing another interesting topic on the show. From me and my producer, Bukunle Ibikunle, we say bye-bye for now.